Village Council for Monday, October 27, 2025. Please rise for Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
President Rutt,
Here.
Pro Tem Ford,
Here.
Councilmember Comparoni,
Here.
Councilmember Dandelides,
Here.
Councilmember Lamb,
Here.
Councilmember Papachek.
Here.
Councilmember Mosher requested to be excused. Could we please have a motion and support?
I move that we excuse Councilmember Mosher.
Support.
We have a motion, we have support. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Presentations, we have none today. Item 5, call to the public. Each person wishing to address the council should be afforded an opportunity to do so. If you'd like to speak, please stand up, raise your hand, indicate you wish to speak, direct your comments to the chair, and your comments are limited to 4 minutes. Yes.
Good evening, council members and the village staff. Living in the village offers numerous benefits, including a picturesque downtown, convenient access to restaurants and retail establishments, and proximity to the Paint Creek Trail. The village government demonstrates genuine concern for residents, and community appearance remains a priority, as evidenced by the extensive landscaping efforts. However, one must consider the potential impact of neglecting lawn care and plant maintenance, such charges for water and sewer can diminish the appearance of homes, and it's very important to us, and we've done extensive landscaping on our property. Our daily water usage summary clearly shows we regularly water our lawns. If you haven't seen my water bill, sewer bill, was over $1,400 for the quarter. And I absolutely used every drop of that water. My lawn is green, my landscaping is beautiful, but my water was $650 and my sewer was $750. Doesn't make any sense to me. So when I received my bill this month, my jaw dropped. I was surprised to find that sewer charges exceeded my water usage. It appears that charges are assessed twice for the same volume consumed. Because these fees are based on estimated rather than actual wastewater output, residents may feel limited in their ability to control costs. In referencing the township regulations and billing practices, residential sewer is a flat rate in the township. It's $41.77 a month, which comes out to $125.31 a quarter. My sewer bill was $756.72 for the quarter, which is an excess cost of $631.41 over what my bill would be in the township. And I realize that village regulations trump township regulations. I have no problem with that. I love the village we live in. I'm happy here. Additionally, people who live on the lake have the ability to use lake water to irrigate their lawns, and therefore are only paying the base rate or slightly over the base rate for sewer. These same homes are the ones who benefit most from the new pump lift stations that we've floated bonds for, and I understand why the sewer rates went up 64% this quarter, but yeah, it's a lot. So I'm requesting that the village reevaluate their billing practices to conform with the township sewer rates, or permit us to have a deduct meter for our sprinkler system. A deduct meter is a second meter that only would measure the water used by the sprinkler system, and therefore the number on that meter would be subtracted from the township or the village meter to determine how much water was actually consumed in the house versus the entire amount. So I'm asking that this issue be added to the agenda tonight so that the council has the ability to discuss it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just in time.
Good evening, Village Council and staff. My name is Ryan Wood. I live off of 435 Glen Court. I am here tonight because of a fence permit that was recently issued to my neighbor at 457 Glen Court. The way it is planned, it will cut off access to the back of my property. If that fence goes as approved, I will not be able to mow, maintain, or safely work on that side of my home or get equipment or for lawn care to my back property. This is not about privacy or boundaries. It is about being able to take care of my property safely and responsibly. What makes it harder is that this fence appears to be retaliatory, not functional, and is being described as a dog run for homeowners that don't own a dog. It is being placed deliberately where it causes harm and not for any reasonable purpose, but to annoy me or cut off my access. Under Michigan law, a fence that is erected maliciously or to annoy a neighbor is considered a nuisance fence, and that's exactly what this is. I have submitted documentation to all of you tonight, should be in front of you, including signed statements from 7 other neighbors who have witnessed or are aware of this ongoing issue. I have lived in Lake Orion for 6 years now. I take care of my property, I take pride in it, and I like to actually maintain it, as well as the people around me. I have never had any issues with any other neighbors in the past. I am simply asking for the same respect in return. I have tried several times for conflict resolution, and it has been met with hostility from the other party. I am turning to you respectfully to place a hold on this permit and review the information in front of you. And if you have any other questions, please contact me. My info is on there. I would like this situation hopefully resolved before a bad situation becomes permanent. Thank you for your time and everything you do to keep our community fair, safe, and neighborly.
Thank you. And is administration looking into this?
Yes.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment on non-agenda items? Yes.
Good afternoon. May I ask your first names? Last names aren't necessary, just your first name. So if I want to talk to a particular person,
All
can-
remarks have to be addressed to the chair.
all of them to the
Yes.
chair. Okay. I hope everybody's well and healthy and prosper. Unfortunately, your community, which you represent, all of them are not doing well. This panel, or a panel above you, has approved buying the water from the city of Detroit. I have no problem with that. I support the city of Detroit in many ways. But the water has gone up 20%, which is the base. There are people in your community, and fortunately, I'm not one of them. But a $200 increase from somebody that was spending $500, and now they're spending $700 for a family of 3 children and a husband and wife, that's a lot of money. You might want to go back and think about buying the water with multiple townships like we did before and forget going to the city of Detroit directly. That's one issue I have. Number 2, 1984, Park Island was a private road. It's still a private road today. The citizens on that street, I do believe there's between 30 to 31. I'm not sure. I'd have to actually count them. That means you have 60 to 62 of people of the household on that street. And back in 1984, the village came up with a draft of paving the road, maintaining it, and pushing the snow out of the way for them. There's a lot of elder people on that street. When I was in 7th grade, there was a snowstorm. And I still remember this today. And it was snowing. And everybody could hear the fire department and the EMS and the police department trying to get down our street. And they couldn't get down the street because of a snowstorm. The man across the street from me was my friend. He was an older man, played baseball with him and everything, died of a heart attack. Woke on up, went to the restroom, had a glass of water in the kitchen, and down he went. There's a lot of elderly people on Park Island. When the road is pushed out of the way, the snow, back in 1984, you had a different panel here. None of you are the same people.
Thank you. Your time is up. There will be another option for public comment at the end of the meeting.
I'd like you to consider pushing the snow, but you push the snow all the way down to the end,
Thank you.
not just 2/3 of it. End of my dance. Thank you for listening.
Anyone else for public comment on a non-agenda item? Seeing none, I'll close call to the public. Again, there will be another option for call to the public at the end of the meeting. Item number 6, approval of the agenda. By order of the president, no matters will be discussed after 9:30 p.m. unless the council votes to continue the meeting. Council.
Can I say one more sentence?
I've closed the call to the public.
Okay.
Yes.
Are we on the approval of the
Yes.
agenda? Mr. Samet brought up a reasonable point. I would like to introduce his topic into the agenda for just a brief discussion, not a determination.
Yeah. So we can add that under 10, make it 10E. Do you have a title you would like to make it?
Separate meters for irrigation.
Okay.
How's that?
So it would be item 10E, separate meter for irrigation. Great. Anything else? And I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with 10E, separate meter for irrigation.
Support.
We have a motion and support. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7, consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are approved by one vote, and I'll read those items out. Item A, approval of the Village Council special meeting minutes of October 13, 2025. B, approval of Village Council regular meeting minutes, October 13, 2025. C, approval of special event Lake Orion New Year's Resolution Run. D, receive and file of Downtown Development Authority regular meeting minutes of September 16, 2025. E, policy on drawdown and disbursement of federal grant funds. F, budget amendment. G, receive and file the request from Councilmember George Dandelides dated October 21, 2025 to amend council agenda format to add DDA executive director comments. Item H, receive and file the request from Councilmember George Dandelides dated October 21, 2025 to leverage grant funding for village capital improvement program projects. I, receive and file invoice distribution report for October 28, 2025. And J, request from Councilmember Dandelides dated October 22, 2025 regarding the TIF and 75-25 split. Council. Mr. Dandelides?
So I would appreciate pulling down E, the policy on the drawdown and disbursement, and then G, H, and J, the ones that I put in place.
Yep. Then, anything else? I'll move to approve the consent agenda with the items E, G, H, and J pulled down for discussion.
Support.
We have a motion and support. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So item E, so it's now 8A, policy on drawdown and disbursement of federal grant funds. Mr. Dandelides.
Thank you. So I just have a couple questions on that. When I read through it, there's several references to a grants administrator and also a grant program manager. Who are they?
Those positions by themselves do not exist. It is a designation that the village manager makes, and it could be anybody on staff. It could be the clerk treasurer. It could be, as far as the sanitary sewer pump station improvement project, it's our engineer who's serving as grant administrator and overseeing our compliance with the grant. So it depends. It's project specific.
And I guess the reason that I ask that is when I read through the steps, kind of the checks and balances, as I would call it, it refers to those folks as being part of that check and balance system. And if they are in fact the same people that are doing the other piece of the work, it kind of negates the whole check and balance. Like 2.2 says, grant administrator prepares the draw request. The clerk treasurer reviews that submission. 3.11, the internal review by the grant program manager. So those could all end up being the same person. Financial reviews by the clerk treasurer department. And then 6 quarterly reviews by the clerk treasurer department. Just seems we potentially lose some of those checks and balances. I just wanted clarification on it.
Yes, and we would look at that on a case-by-case basis to make sure that we are able to maintain as strict controls as possible. But when you've got a very small staff, it's not always possible to have 100% separation between duties or responsibilities. So, but we do look at those on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. That answers my question. I move to receive and file.
Well, it would be to approve the policy. It would be the motion.
Oh, you're right. So I'll move to approve the policy as written here.
Support. Any other comments or questions? Public comments, questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item G, Mr. Dandelides. That'll be 8B.
Thank you. So it's been brought up several times, the communication and maybe the disconnect between village council and the DDA. I attend most of the DDA meetings, and there are comments back and forth both ways. One of the things that I think would be beneficial would be to provide a standing agenda time slot for the DDA executive director to bring kind of a current status, what's going on in the DDA. And I think that would be a great forum to bring forward any issues or any roadblocks that might need to be handled, areas where we as a village, either administration or council, could support the efforts of the DDA. So what I'd like to propose is, I'd like to make a motion to revise the council standing agenda to include a slot for the DDA executive director to provide a status of current DDA activities and advise council of any areas where help is needed.
Support. Other council comments? Mr. Ford.
While I support that, and I think our DDA director has expressed that he hasn't been invited, and so this is the invitation. My only other thought would be if, because of his time schedule, if there's some leeway, if obviously I see the benefit of him being here in person, but if he can't be for whatever reason, can we accept a written report in that same time slot?
I think, I certainly have no problem with that. I'm just trying to encourage that communication and try and, if there's something that we can do, a roadblock,
Sure.
I'd like to help be the roadblock buster.
Mr. Lamb?
Darwin, what would be the most appropriate place in the agenda for something like that? Reports or committee comments and such?
Probably at the end of the agenda, maybe a new item 14, DDA Executive Director comments right before closed session.
George, you willing to, is that okay with you?
Yeah, I guess my only caution with that is I guess trying to be, I guess, considerate of his time to have him stay till the end of the meeting. That would be my only caution. If there's any way we could bring it, we could pull it forward, he wouldn't have to be here for an hour and a half, would be my only comment.
I understand that rationale, that thought process, though it does seem like that's when council makes comments, manager makes comments, so it does seem like the logical place, as opposed to earlier in the agenda, just thinking through it logically. And yeah, I think it's one of those things that if he's not here, just like if a council member's not here, council member doesn't make comments. If we have no presentations, there's just no presentations on the agenda. So yeah, I just struggle with where to put it,
That's fair.
where else. So I'm fine with it being as a new item at like 14 on the agenda.
Yeah, I don't anticipate he'll come here every meeting, just when he has a report. And if he wants to give us a written report to be read into the record, I'd be, or something, I'd be more than happy to enter any communications from our committees or boards. I'm always welcome to entertain or read or hear here at the council meetings.
Any public comment? All right, so we have a motion to, could you reread your motion, just so, for clarity, so everybody knows what they're voting on?
Okay, the motion to revise the council standing agenda to include a slot for the DDA Executive Director to provide a status of current DDA activities and advise council of any areas where help is needed.
Thanks. So we have a motion, we have support, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item H, which is now 8C, Mr. Dandelides.
Thank you. We just finished up a special meeting on the CIP, and there's been much discussion around how to fund that CIP. We heard comments tonight about the concerns over water and sewer rates, which I certainly understand. We've got a CIP out there right now that covers a 6-year plan, and it's going to take $28.8 million. In talking to other communities, they leverage grant writers. They leverage looking for outside funding in grants. And as I look ahead and look at our CIP, one of the things I think we could do is try and leverage grant funding more aggressively. This really came to mind after some discussions from our last meeting where we approved adding a administrative assistant, and that was under the premise that we needed that person to help schedule-wise go into a 5-day schedule here in the office as opposed to our current 4-day schedule. And like I said, with some discussions with folks outside of here, the idea was raised to me, why wouldn't we have a grant writer? If we're going to add a person, why wouldn't we add a grant writer? And I thought about that, and it made a lot of sense to me. So what I would like to propose is, and I got a motion here also, but my motion would be to direct the village manager to investigate opportunities within the administration structure to more actively pursue grant funding to help the village offset the $28.8 million funding required for the capital improvement plan, and come back to council with a recommendation at the November 3rd council meeting. And I know in my own mind...
I'll support, so you can...
Okay. So there's a couple of things that I can think of just off the top of my head. I know in talking to our partners at the township, they have a part-time grant writer. And I thought, why couldn't we share that person? Or why couldn't we maybe make it a full-time job, and part of the job is working on the village stuff, part of the job is working on township stuff. I also thought about kind of repurpose or refocus that person, that administrative assistant that we're adding, to be a part-time grant writer. And I think that that person could supplement the staff on the schedule concerns on a 5-day schedule. Or the third one would be to just add another person, add another part-time person. If we pursued grants aggressively, that person could pay for themselves, hopefully, quite quickly.
Mr. Ford?
Just a question for administration. But the township's current grant writer, are they available for us to use?
The township supervisor has indicated previously that, that the village could utilize their grant writer, but we would have to have discussions with
On how that would work?
with Supervisor Barnett on how that would work.
And then currently, with any grants that we have, you just told us about one that you got for roads. That was done all through our office and by administration?
It was done through our office in coordination with our engineer.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Lamb?
Yeah, I don't know if I want to spend any more money looking for free money, but my understanding of the process, and I've done it a couple of years out of the last 5 years, was you go on the Federal Register and you look for grants every year, or they have a certain, sequence of time that they open up for grants. State of Michigan programs have grants, and so they have these websites with all the grants on them. So someone needs to go through and look through all the grants. Some of them are solicited, right, Darwin? They send out to communities, but, or through SEMCOG or something. But so basically, it's someone to look through to see if there are any grants that we might potentially be eligible for. So it's people are in the misunderstanding that there are grants out there just waiting to be gotten by written. They're not. They have to be, the grants have to be out there. In most cases, my experience over my 5 years on village council, there haven't been a whole hell of a lot of grants available to us. And we captured a big federal one because a politician moved into the village and her offices were here, and we were able to approach her directly and conveniently. So I support George's desire to encourage administration to seek out grants. But I don't support, paying additional staffing for any grant writers. I mean, if we find a grant, I believe the village manager is capable of writing it. He's gotten us money a couple times now. So if the township has a person searching for grants that they hire full-time, I wouldn't mind paying them or contributing to their time to, clue us in when some grants pop up. But I don't think there'll be so many, is my point, that we need to hire someone. But having someone looking, actively researching, if they've got someone doing that, I would like to participate with them. That would be much more cost-effective.
Mr. Babchak?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think everyone likes the idea of grants. I mean, who wouldn't? It seems like it would go a long ways and really help fund some of the things we need to start looking at. I'd be curious, I don't know the track record and the history, how many grants, let's look back the last 3 years, what's our hit rate, how many have we gotten, those would be nice metrics to have, because I wouldn't want it to be, we fund somebody and it's a lot of spinning of their wheels. I'd like to know there's potential out there to succeed and to succeed with real money, or so from that respect, I like the idea of maybe approaching the township first. They've got someone with some expertise here. We're part of the township, right? It would be nice to have access to that, maybe exploratory a little bit, and then see if there's a big enough need potentially for us to have someone specialized in our area for that. But yeah, why wouldn't we explore it if we can, so.
I would say, just kind of Mr. Dandelides' motion is not to hire someone right now. It's within the existing structure right now. But kind of a side comment, every municipality that I've talked to who has hired a grant writer, they have paid for themselves in getting grants. So for instance, currently there's a grant through SEMCOG that's due, the application's due November 7th for programs for different things related to sidewalks and pedestrian-friendly access. I have no idea, I haven't seen any plans that we're planning to apply for that because our administration is, you know, they have full jobs, that they have a lot of stuff to do. So there's not anybody that's, I think, dedicated towards searching those things out. And I think the township could help us, but also their priority, rightly so, is going to be applying for grants for their programs. We have had the engineer apply for grants for us, but that always comes at a cost. I remember approving costs like $2,500 to create grants for us. So we have paid for people to write grant applications for us. Sometimes they're simple, and they can be done relatively easily by our administration. Sometimes they're a little bit more involved. But I do think there are grants out there that we could get. Maybe they're not the ones that are going to hit every top priority box. They're not going to get us $3 million for sewers, but they might get us some of those other things that are on our CIP, our capital improvement plan, or on our wish list that then we won't have to pay for. So I do think there are grants out there. Are we going to get every one we apply for? No. But could we get more grants than what we're currently getting with a focus towards that? I think so. When I was at the MML conference a couple months ago, there was also a vendor there that runs in, could be something for administration to look into, and I could get you the information. They run an AI program, we're all of AI right now, right? That you, basically, I think from my brief conversation, you input your community's information, and they help match you with grants and help you on that grant writing process when you have limited staff resources. So I'm very interested in supporting Mr. Dandelides' motion to have the administration think about how we can more actively pursue grant funding within the current structure and boundaries that we have with staffing, because I think that we could get more. I think there are more grants out there available to us that we haven't applied for because we haven't had the focus on it. Mr. Camperoni.
Well, I think, and we probably all can agree with this, if you want something done right, you get a specialist, whether it be for health, plumbing, carpenter, whatever, you just go get a specialist. And I think we need to search out a specialist. That's all they do, whether if they get their pay by a percentage of what they bring in or whatever it be. But I think George is onto something. We do need a specialist to specialize in this stuff.
Any public comments?
Good evening, Matthew Gibb, DDA. Just a suggestion possibly on the motion. It does ask a very burdened village manager to respond with recommendations. I think Mr. Camperoni's on the right direction. It might be a plausible solution. Great idea, Mr. Dandelides. What I'm hearing, invite somebody like Alex Borngasser, who's the former grants head for the city of Pontiac, who's now heading that up at Techtown for Wayne State and the city of Detroit. In lieu of a specific recommendation from his already stretched time limits, maybe directing all this conversation to the invitation of an expert that would come and guide this council and the village on how she's been so successful to the tunes of tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in grants over the last 20 years, particularly in places like Pontiac, Highland Park, and otherwise, where it's very difficult for grants. And so just a consideration of maybe directing that he derive a list of specific expertise that would be willing to come. There's some specific names out there that I can certainly suggest to Mr. McClary. That would be a phenomenal starting spot. It's a very critical thing to also define the goals and objectives of what this person would be pursuing. It's one thing to say, we need to get some grants, we need to get it going, but given the breadth of the capital improvement plan, it might be appropriate to bring in that expertise to discuss how you define that more finite and specifically, and it's going to run downhill much more quickly for you. So just make that suggestion.
Thank you. Other public comment? Seeing none, we have a motion and we have support, and the motion is to direct the village manager to investigate opportunities within the administration structure to more actively pursue grant funding to help the village offset the $28.8 million funding required for the capital improvement plan and come back to council with a recommendation at the November 3, 2025 council meeting. So all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item J, request from Councilmember Dandelides, October 22, 2025, regarding TIF and 75-25 split. Mr. Dandelides.
Thank you. I prepared a presentation that I'd like to show this evening, if I get everybody's agreement to that. It's basically a walk-up of the current TIF funding for the DDA. And my,
Wait till this comes down so we can hear you. We want them to hear you. There we go.
Okay, so my intent is not to jump to any conclusions, nor propose any changes, but merely to start from the last TIF update and then show the progression of where we are today from a funding standpoint. Because I think it's important to kind of get our heads around where do we start, where are we, because I think as we start to look at potential solutions, I think having that baseline is important. So if you all will allow me 10 minutes or so, maybe 15, I'd like to go through what I put together. And Okay, so the TIF has been amended 4 times since it was created in 1985, with the most recent amendment in 2019. At that time, the TIF was projected to produce revenues from the properties within the DDA district in 2019 at about $769,000, an increase based on a projected annual property value appreciation of 2%, to about $1.15 million over 20 years. And so in what I'm showing here is a table 4 out of the TIF, the Amendment 4, and the column that I've highlighted in red, those are the projections by calendar year. Those revenues are generated by tax capture from a combination of sources, including the village properties in the district, as well as taxing jurisdictions outside of the village. As you can see, the TIF is capturing just over 25 mills total, which is roughly split between the village properties and the jurisdictions outside the village. In other words, about half of the revenues generated coming into the village through the TIF capture are from outside the village, or you might call it free money. This line represents the projections in that Amendment number 4 for the TIF from 2019 through 2039. And as you can see on the left, that's the 769,000, and it increases at a 2% rate to just over the 1 million on the right. And that's just the direct numbers from that chart. Looking at the makeup, the green bars represent the TIF contributions from the village. The orange bars make up the other 50% and are from the outside taxing jurisdiction or the free money. So if you look there, 50% of that is coming in from outside of our village taxes, but available within our village to the DDA. In this graph, I've adjusted what were projections from the Amendment 4 in 2019 to the actuals from 2019 through 2025. So as you can see, the increases have actually, the appreciation has actually gone beyond that 2%. In 2022, there was a recognition that the increase in property values since 2019 and the new developments that were on the horizon, the revenues from the TIF were going to outpace the projections, and the 75-25% agreement was reached between the village and the DDA. Under this agreement, a chalk line was snapped in 2022, and the annual increase in TIF revenues generated from the increases in property value above that 2022 chalk line would be split, 25% going to the DDA and 75% set aside for the village. That 75 would have to be used for infrastructure, maintenance, and improvements within the DDA district. This graph shows that agreement, or how that agreement would play out, with the green bars again showing the revised revenue generated for the DDA and the orange bars showing the revenue to be set aside for the village infrastructure. In effect, this reduced the revenues going to the DDA back to roughly the levels of the projections in Amendment 4 of 2019. Looking ahead at some of the new developments that are currently planned or underway, we will see several new properties within the village, and more specifically within the DDA district, that will have a positive effect on our tax revenues. One estimate suggests we'll see about $23 million added to the taxable value of the properties in the district in 2028. This graph shows the impact of adding that revenue from the increase. So you can see what happens in the total. Looking at how the 75-25 agreement impacts that increase, it's also significant. Again, the green bars represent the TIF revenue that would go to the DDA, with the orange bars showing the revenue generated for the village infrastructure. This suggests that between 2023 and 2027, over $600,000 would be available for infrastructure, and by 2039, this will generate almost $1 million annually. So looking at the numbers that make up the previous graph, this shows that the annual 75% contribution from the TIF to be set aside for village infrastructure, as well as the cumulative over the 20-year period, contributions of $142,000 for 2023 and 2024 were already set aside last year, with another roughly $140,000 for this year, 2025. This will grow to over $600,000 in 2028 when the new developments come online, and by 2039, this will have generated around $10 million in total for infrastructure. The caveat is that these dollars are required to be spent on infrastructure within the boundaries of the DDA district, but recognize that that will offset dollars and that would otherwise have been targeted inside the district to now be available outside the district. So looking ahead, how can this money be used? Earlier this year, we approved a village-wide 6-year capital improvement plan, and in that plan, $28 million was identified to fund the needed capital improvements over that period. This is just an example of where some of those dollars might be able to be used. More work needs to be done to identify the specific projects and the timing of those projects to move forward. So now I'd like to take just a quick moment to show you how changing the DDA boundaries and TIF might change the outlook. As an example, this suggestion would reduce the boundaries of the district, cutting the taxable value by a little over half and removing the new developments from the district. The green bars, again, represent the resulting revenues to the DDA, and the blue bars show the revenues now going directly to the village. Since the blue bars are revenues generated outside the new district, they can be used anywhere in the village. However, I must also point out that the green bars, or monies going to the DDA, would barely, if at all, cover the bond debt for the lumberyard. So this is a graphical comparison of the previous example compared to the current course that we're on. So where do we go from here? What I've tried to show is in the previous slides is a representation of our current path and what can result if we're not strategic in our conclusions. I believe our next step should be more fully analyze our projected revenues and balance those against the projects and the timing of the CIP. So where I believe we should be headed is at joint collaborative discussions between the village and the DDA, identifying what are our objectives, our obligations, responsibilities, and priorities of the village and the DDA. I would ask, where do they overlap or where are they redundant? And which organization is best positioned where they overlap or are redundant? I would suggest developing and agreeing upon the individual lists of responsibilities for both the DDA and the village, and determine and implement the most effective way to fund both the village and the DDA to successfully execute their respective lists. As thought starters, I would throw out, for redundancy and overlap, we have street lamps in the village that are DDA street lamps, and we have village street lamps. I think we ought to have street lamps, and we shouldn't have some covered by or paid for by one and another group that are paid for by another. Waste management, who takes out the garbage? Winter maintenance of sidewalks and parking lots, lawn maintenance and maintenance equipment. office staff, office equipment, and office space. In my mind, those are areas that we should be looking at, and where can we get economies of scale? Who's best positioned to do some of those, and that organization ought to handle it. I also suggest we look at who has the obligation. Who has the obligation for police services, DPW services, office services, code enforcement, looking at bond payments, the water mains, sewer pump stations, lumberyard, who has their obligation on those? And then who's best positioned to perform them? And I think once we look at those things, separate who's best positioned, who has the obligation, what are the funding sources required, and then what do we do with the available funding coming into the village, be it the DDA or the village proper? How do we work those funds so that we both meet our needs and accomplish our goals successfully? So with that, I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Any council comments or questions? Any public comments or questions? Seeing none, I will move to receive and file Mr. Dandelisa's presentation.
Support.
We have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 10A, policy on review of professional services contracts. Mr. McCleary.
Your Honor, council is scheduled to consider approving a policy on the review of professional services contracts. Oh, sorry. Council requested that the village manager draft this policy in response to concerns that a regular review of such contracts is warranted to ensure responsiveness to the needs of the village and cost competitiveness. I provided you with a copy of the draft policy for council's consideration, and I can answer any questions council may have regarding the policy.
Council?
Did I miss something? What happened to A and B? Or is it my?
So 10A is policy of review on professional services contracts. It is missing, or not missing, is it municipal? It is missing on the online version. Oh, no, it's down, sorry, it's down a number, it's C. Sorry, I printed off a different agenda, I guess. I printed off the agenda before I left.
Proposals for municipal.
Okay, let's go with that one. I printed off the agenda before I came here, and it must have rearranged. So, okay. So,
Sorry to interrupt.
no, that's fine. Thank you for the clarification. So we'll go down, yeah. So the current agenda is A, proposals for municipal legal services, the one online. So let's go to that one, then we'll get back to the other one. At least the one you've pulled up on our computers has A and C switched around from what I have.
Because I'm online and.
You have A as policy review?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe it's a refresh thing, I don't know. Maybe a browser refresh.
I'm going to hit refresh on my browser just to see.
It's up to you, Madam
Okay.
President. Which one would you like to?
Since the one before council right here is a municipal legal services, let's go with that so they don't have to jump back and forth.
All right. As directed by Village Council Administration, advertise a request for qualifications or RFQ for legal services. The RFQ was published on Mitten on October 2nd, and proposals were due on October 22nd. A total of 225 firms were notified of the opportunity to submit proposals. 30 firms downloaded the documents, the village's documents, and 6 firms submitted proposals. You've been provided with a copy of the bid tabulation from the clerk, and you've also been provided with copies of each firm's proposals. Administration is recommending that council follow the same procedure that was followed in 2016 to select the most qualified firm for legal services. The policy would include creating an ad hoc legal services review committee comprising 3 council members, the village manager, and the chief of police, to establish the criteria for rating firms, reviewing the proposals received and rating each, preparing interview questions and interviewing firms and rating each firm's presentation, and formulating a recommendation to council on selection of the most qualified firm. The committee should be able to formulate and submit a recommendation to council by council's first regular meeting in December if the council chooses to follow that process.
Thank you. Council. Mr. Danielides.
So
Sorry.
I've had a quick chance to take a look at what was included in the agenda packet. And I certainly think this is the right approach to really get into the detail in a smaller forum. So I would support having that ad hoc committee, and I would volunteer to participate.
Mr. Lamb?
I'm torn between another committee, we've had so many, and I'm also torn with the butt whipping I got off of, wanting to have access to legal services. I reviewed all 6 of these online. They're all highly qualified. Some of the firms are quite large, and I don't think a good fit. But clearly, the low bidder is significantly lower than the others. And I researched and checked them out, and they have over 40 years of municipal experience with a city with 40,000 people. And I reviewed it against all the others, and I'm ready to go with the low bidder, to be honest with you. I don't see why we should waste our time. I mean, I read the packet and I read all the qualifications. They're all qualified. So my recommendation is go with the low bidder, $135 an hour versus, $175 to $270 for a firm. I mean, even if you guys choose another route, I'm saying is it's obvious who is the cheapest. And like I said, I read their stuff. I'm just doing this for my own entertainment purposes, but I want to see that the biggest book is this is huge. It's got so many people in their company, I don't even know who all those people are, and then they get smaller. And then we got favorite little black and white proposal with no color pictures, my favorite. I'm just telling you. And a cheap price, so they sold me right away. Okay, so
Is that, okay. Mr. Camperoni?
I couldn't believe it either. He just shut up just like that. I'm gonna- I just lost my train of thought. I believe you get what you pay for. You want cheap, you're going to get cheap. I like this, creating a little committee here, and I would be part of it also, to pick the best. You can always get your money's worth and not be cheap. So I would go with this motion.
is there a motion? Did you make a motion, George?
Well, I read it.
What's that?
Oh,
No,
you make a motion?
go ahead. I don't know how to read.
You can't read, he said.
I'll make the motion to establish an ad hoc legal services review committee consisting of 3 council members, the village manager, the chief of police, to establish a criteria for rating legal service firms, reviewing the proposals received on October 22, 2025, rating each, preparing interview questions and interviewing firms, and rating each firm's interview presentation, and formulating a recommendation to council on selection of the most qualified firm no later than the first regular meeting of the village council in December 2025.
Support.
The motion and support. My comments would be, I also am in favor of doing a deeper look at, I read through them all, not every single word, they're pretty big, but I'm also, there were 3 of them that were very similarly priced, a couple that were over, a couple that were under, and think it's worth doing a more thorough look at these different firms just to see what their offerings are, their experience, and coming up with a way to rate them and interview. So very on board with that process. I heard Mr. Danielides That'd be a second motion, but I did hear Mr. Dandelides and Mr. Comparoni volunteer for that so far.
I'll volunteer too. I brought up the whole idea, I think.
That'll be a second motion, but any other comments on creating a committee? Any public comments? So the motion is to create the committee. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So then we have a motion, we'll need a motion to appoint members to serve on the review committee. And I'd wonder if, I've heard 3, if there are other people who would want to be on that committee as well.
I'll make a motion to appoint the committee of myself and George and Alex.
So is there anybody else that's interested?
I think I would be interested. I kind of see a halfway hand from, I don't know if that was an actual hand from Mr. Ford. I think, with all due respect, my concern would be that I'm wondering if there would be a bias based on the information that we got from a council member about our former attorney, or our current attorney, with the desire to change, and some of the comments made in this discussion about the attorney. That's just a concern that I have when it comes to who is on the committee.
And so when I share that, we received an email that was in the meeting packet a couple of meetings ago when this first came up, as well as in the minutes to that meeting. And the source of the email, although I understand and I respect the passion and whatnot, but the tone of that message, I find it hard to believe that person is unbiased and could be objective.
Ms. Pepchak?
Yeah, I mean, I'd certainly be interested in being part of the committee. I think it's important to, I skim through, and I did note, it was a significantly lower price in one of them, which is appealing. We had some discussion earlier about the need to control our legal costs and who can have access and who can't to the attorneys. I think cost, I guess it's to be determined on the committee, but to me, that should be a primary driver. They all look pretty qualified. I'm seeing 10s, 20s, 30 years experience. Agree we need to go deeper, look at presentations and see everyone's backgrounds, but first glance that cost is so much better for us if they're capable, still give everyone a fair chance, I think, certainly, but to have a committee to evaluate that, at least I think the cost part is a primary driver for us to look at.
Yeah.
Mr. Lamb?
Just because I don't care for Bear Howlett doesn't make me biased. That means I don't like Bear Howlett. And I was the one that originally proposed we review their contract because I didn't feel, comfortable with them as our attorney. They're a great attorney. They're very qualified. We all agreed on that, but I don't have to like them. The last time we got rid of a subcontractor was Hubble, Roth & Clark. I also didn't care for them because they were too large. They didn't give us the personal service we needed, and they were a large, expensive company, and they billed us endlessly. We got a new engineer that bills us slightly, okay? So to say I'm biased because I don't care for a product that a consultant offers is very unfair. I might say that other council people have a long-term, close relationship with another firm, and I would consider them biased in that fashion. Especially, so you guys look at it how it may.
I didn't write this, I just read it.
Yeah, so.
So we have a current motion. Was there support on that motion, Lindsay?
Not yet.
Okay. Was there support for the motion to appoint Councilmember Lamb, Comparoni, and Dandelides? I hear no support. Is there a different motion?
How about George and Alex and Eric? They're the newest members and the least inclined to be biased.
Is there support?
I'll support.
Okay, any other discussion? Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion carries. Item number 10B, private road winter maintenance agreements. Mr. McCleary.
You're confusing me with the,
It is B on both of
Okay.
my agendas.
so, okay. Policy is C, okay. Council is scheduled to consider approving 2025-26 winter maintenance agreements for Converse Court, Newton Court, and Park Island Road, and to authorize the village manager to execute the agreements. As council is aware, the village determined that state law prohibits the use of public funds to maintain or improve private roads, and it's necessary to enter into agreements with residents on private roads and to charge them for winter maintenance services that are to be performed by the village. As a result, the village attorney drafted a proposed agreement for these services, and administration has secured a signed agreement from the homeowners associations for Converse Court and Newton Court. We did determine that there's no homeowners association, formal homeowners association for Park Island Road. But one of the residents on Park Island has offered to represent the rest of the residents and take on responsibility for contracting with the village and covering the costs of the Park Island Road maintenance. And I do believe you have all three agreements now signed and in front of you. The agreements cover up to 16 snow removals per season. The village will bill each HOA for winter maintenance services in April of each year for the actual services provided during the previous season. The Public Works Director determined the cost for each snow removal for each subdivision, and the costs have been included in the agreements. Administration recommends 3 motions to approve each agreement separately.
I just want to state that I do live on Converse Court, so it affects me. I'm in full support of our association paying for this service, and I'm the one who witnessed the treasurer of our association on there, so you will see my signature on there, so wanted to disclose that in case anybody's wondering. But I am full support of us paying for our plowing as a private road. So since that's the first one, I'll just make the motion to approve the 2025-2026 agreement for winter maintenance services between the Village of Lake Orion and the Converse Court Homeowners Association in the total estimated amount of $546.06, and to authorize the village manager to execute the agreement on behalf of the village.
Support.
Council comments? Public comments? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Motion number 2, to approve the 2025-26 agreement for winter maintenance services between the Village of Lake Orion and Newton Court Homeowners Association in the total estimated amount of $524.49, and to authorize the village manager to execute the agreement on behalf of the village.
Support? Council comments? Public comment? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And Your Honor, if I could interject for the third motion, it should read, instead of Park Island Homeowners Association, it should be resident Vance Donofrio on behalf of the residents of Park Island Road.
So I will make that motion with that stated correction to the motion as written. And the total estimated amount is $1,047.88.
Support.
The motion, support, council comment? Public comment? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, item C, policy on review of professional services contracts. Mr. McCleary.
Council is scheduled to consider approving a policy on the review of professional services contracts. Council requested that the manager draft the policy in response to concerns that a regular review of such contracts is warranted to ensure responsiveness to the needs of the village and cost competitiveness. I provided you with a copy of the proposed policy, and I'm happy to answer any questions council may have.
Council. Mr. Dandelides?
So after reading this, the only question I had was, I noticed the difference between legal services and then the other services. And the difference is that the legal services is under the, I guess, under the control, I'll say, of council. The other services come under the village manager. Why is there a difference?
The charter places the village attorney under the direct authority of the village council. The other contractors perform administrative services and are part of the administrative operations. Now, the council is the only authority to be able to contract with anyone. So even though the village manager would make the recommendation on the other contractors, the council must still approve any contracts.
So and you referenced the charter 3.12, section 3.12, and when I read that, I guess, maybe I'm not reading it close enough, but I don't see that. Anyway, I just thought it was odd.
Yeah, our charter does directly state that the attorney is under the purview and serves the council.
The attorney is an administrative officer appointed by the
Yes.
council.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Lamb.
So just to enlighten you, one of the reasons why the attorney works directly for the council is because the council as the executive branch needs an impartial person in order to review their decisions and primarily their relationship with the chief administrative officer. So the main reason we have the village attorney directly under council is because we have to have a contractual relationship with the village manager, and we need a person that is not subordinate to the village manager to advise us on issues relating to his authority. So that's the main reason it's included in the charter.
Okay.
The other one is because we said all policy and law, the village manager doesn't have anything to do with that. He proposes policy and law, but he can't advise us on legal issues for the most part through the village attorney. So the village attorney then is impartially advising us on the law and the legality of law, whereas the village manager can only propose to us changes to the laws.
Okay, I'm good.
Other council comments or questions? I'll move to approve the administrative policy as written relating to the solicitation, review, and renewal of professional services contracts.
Support.
Any public comment? Seeing none, we have a motion and support. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 10D, special meeting for discussion on 2026 capital improvement projects. Mr. McCleary.
Your Honor, I'm recommending that council schedule a special meeting of the village council for Monday, November 10th at 5:30 p.m. for the purpose of discussing and preparing the 2026 capital improvement projects. This will be the first of probably several meetings we will have over the coming months to prepare for the 2026 projects.
Council?
Works for me.
I'm good.
So I heard
In other words, the
I heard
motion is.
I heard a so moved from someone, right?
The motion is to schedule a special meeting of the Village Council for Monday, November 10th, 2025 at 5:30 PM for the purpose of discussing and preparing the 2026 capital improvement projects.
Support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 10E, separate meter for irrigation. Mr. Lamb, would you like to comment on that?
Sure, I think I know what the topic is about. Several residents have approached me and wanted to know why they took away separate meters for lawn irrigation, which my understanding is they may have had them at one time in the village.
I think it was a credit,
Or
not a
not.
separate meter.
Yes, so I don't see a problem with not charging people for sewers they don't use. My review of the village's sewer and water purchases, and currently the village pays, I believe, double for sewage what it does for water usage. So that means that our infiltration rate into our sewer system is 100%. Now, that sounds like maybe a lot, or maybe a lot of people's sump pumps are pumping into the sewer system. But with, our limited resources, I'm not sure that the village manager is yet to engage in a program to investigate why there's so much more water going into our sewers than we buy from the township. Especially since a lot of people irrigate their lawns, you would think it would be even higher. So the answer I got from the county was, well, you guys do live on a lake. Well, that doesn't mean the sewers have to leak, okay? So anyway, so the question I would have is it fair for us to charge people for water that doesn't go into the sewer? My understanding is if I get a meter to fill up my swimming pool, I don't have to pay the sewage rate on that meter. Then the question is raised, if we reduce the sewer rates for people to water their lawns, what effect will that have on the sewer charge for the rest of it, the base charge? So I think what we need here is we're going to need some more calculations from our DPW department to attempt to estimate what impact. So I'm willing to make a motion to request the village manager to study this issue with regard to what the overall effect of changing policy would be, and what the past overall effect of changing the policy, what the past policy might have been, and perhaps what policy the township follows. I know that their rate calculation structure and such is different than ours. So I don't know about the flat fee. So is that enough, do you think, for a motion?
Probably. So we have a motion, we have support?
I'll support.
I have a couple questions. I know when I first moved to the village, there was a credit. Do you, because I think that was changed when you were, maybe when you were here before. Could
Yes.
you tell us maybe a little bit about what that credit was? Like, was it a flat amount? Was it, I don't know how much a meter would be if a resident wanted to install a meter, that kind of thing.
The practice at one time was that we called it summer sewer averaging. And what we did was at that time, we averaged, I think, the previous 3 years' winter usage, and we used those amounts to bill for summer, which roughly accounted for any outdoor watering. That was a practice we used to follow. Now with technology and the new meters, there's new ways of doing that. But we got away from doing that, and the reason for that was that while the relatively small number of people who can afford the irrigation systems to irrigate their lawns would save on sewer costs, the effect is we are billed for the actual amount of sewage that runs through our system and goes into the Paint Creek interceptor. And that is not going to change. So the net effect, without doing calculations, the net effect bottom line is the more that we have people installing meters to measure their irrigation use of water, we'd have to increase sewer rates for everybody, because we have to have enough revenue to cover the cost to pay for the disposal and treatment of the sewage that leaves the village. So the more that we give discounts to some people, the more we have to increase rates for everybody on the sewer side. And it didn't make sense. So we decided at that time that we were going to stop the practice of allowing people to have secondary meters or giving them a discount, the summer sewer averaging. It didn't make sense because it was just going to increase the rates for everybody on the sewer side. So everybody would have to pay higher rates for those people who chose to have the irrigation systems.
Just as a clarifying question, did I hear correctly that like our sewer rates are the same as our water rates because that's how much is actually leaving our system-ish?
We established the sewer rates based on our anticipated flows leaving the system. Those are all metered, so we know how much water is going through the sewer system, leaving the village into the Paint Creek Interceptor and onto the city of Pontiac and the OMIDD for treatment. We know that. So now if and then we look at how much water consumption we have to determine what the rates need to be for everybody to cover the sewer costs. Now, if we're going to provide discounts to some people who are irrigating their lawns, we have to take that out of the equation as far as water consumption, and that's going to result in higher sewer rates for everybody. So everybody will be paying more on sewer rates. The people who are irrigating will probably still see a reduction in costs on their water and sewer bills. But those who do not irrigate their lawns, which is probably the majority of the community, will see an increase to make up for that lost revenue.
I have more questions, but perhaps later. So George.
And I did want to address the township's practice. I don't know what all goes into the township's flat rate system for sewage. I would only question how that fits in with the Michigan Supreme Court's Bolt versus the City of Lansing decision. I don't think I don't want to say that because, again, I don't know what the township's doing. I can only tell you that that was a storm sewer issue, but it was connected to Lansing sanitary sewer system. What they did was they did a separation of storm and sanitary, and they wanted to try to cover the costs of that separation, and so they started charging everybody. They actually did a little bit of a better job than flat rate. They tried to do calculations as to how much each property was contributing to the combined sewers to try to fund that cost. But the Supreme Court still said you can't do that. It amounts to a tax rather than a fee for service. That the fees for service have to be somehow reasonably related to the cost of the service. So, we definitely couldn't do a flat fee for sewer. I don't believe, based on our own system. I'm not talking about the townships, I'm talking about our own system. We could not do a flat fee. It has to be somehow reasonably related to the cost of service and the benefit that each gets.
Mr. Andalides?
So, yeah, two things. So did I hear it right that we have twice the volume going out as sewer as we got coming in? So
I don't think it's twice. I think I've heard 60%, which is still high. for inflow and infiltration, but and we did a number of repairs on the system over the past several years to try to reduce that amount, but obviously there's still repairs that need to be done.
So for every gallon I get out of my faucet, there's 1.6 gallons going down the drain?
That's what I'm hearing from the director.
So
yes.
what are we doing about that? That's pretty
Well,
significant.
We did a number of repairs. We still have additional repairs that we've got to do. We probably need to televise the system again. We televised back in 2016, 17, and identified a lot of inflow and infiltration. But we probably need to do more televising, and the Water Resources Commission could assist us with that. Sometimes it's a matter of people connecting their basement sump drains into the system, but a lot of it is probably deteriorated sewer lines that need to be either patched or replaced. So,
If I could add to that just a little bit, a lot of that is part of what the county told us that we needed to do with the pump stations and the force mains and the improvements that in 2017, 16, yeah, which they are currently doing.
So the second comment I wanted to make is I've lived in communities that had separate water meters for outside irrigation. I thought that was a pretty good way to handle it, and it quantifies everything, right? There's no guessing. And I think the issue we could potentially get into if we start looking at winter bills is now for those folks that go to Florida, or not here in the winter, or they're using their homes part year residents. That'd be quite the can of worms. So to me, I would favor putting a separate meter in and call it good. And I recognize that I know my sewer rate's got to go up, right? As a result, I get it. The math is pretty simple.
Mr. Lamb?
Since things didn't go so well for me in the previous meeting, I'm going to criticize a couple comments here. I talked to the county, and the county doesn't meter all of our outflows, only a couple of them. Some of them, they use an algorithm, okay, you know the word algorithm, right? It means where they guess the outflow into their sewer. They're pretty, strict and pretty firm on their analysis, but they're not all metered. And I think our infiltration rate is much greater than 60%. That being said, it is very difficult for a DPW to maintain, we can't even control fences in this village, let alone sump pump connections to the sewers. I personally know of at least 5 sump pumps connected to sewers, but I'm not the enforcer for the village. All right. It wouldn't be a bad deal while we go into everybody's house for their backflow preventer check every year that we're going to have to do pretty soon. Might as well look for sump pump connections. Maybe we need to. Troy did the entire city. It took them 2 years, but they inspected the entire city of 40,000 residents for sump pump connections. It was that significant. George is right, spot on. So Darwin's correct. When you meter sewage, you got a dollar amount, and you have to prorate it to the usage by the state law. I just read that law today, by the way. And the judge ruling, you have to, the sewer charge has to be rated to a usage. So by take the sewer total bill, divide it by the water usage, at least prorates the usage per house. The only way to effectively maintain that, I think George is right. I think, if the people want to opt out, then they can bear the full cost of purchasing, installing a separate meter system. I know with the automated billing practices, it's not really very much more money to bill them for a second meter. But, with the kind of dollars that these gentlemen is paying for water, I'm sure he can afford to, he'd be happy to pay for a meter and a plumber to put that in for him. So I'm thinking I want to amend my motion to, if that's okay with you, George, to basically suggest to the village manager that he come up with a proposal where we would charge customers the full cost of I didn't do it. To come up with a proposal to charge those interested customers in having a second meter for lawn irrigation, the full cost and fees for a separate meter, and see what that would look like, and give us come back to us at the next meeting or so and tell us what that would look like.
I'd support that. I think the second meter's the way to go.
Yeah. Does that also include how that would impact, like, the community-wide, like, water rates?
Well,
Or,
we're going to get impacted next
Yeah.
year with another huge sewer and water increase. They're never going to notice. It's going to be the increase over the next 2 years is going to be so large that people never notice that he's no longer paying for $5 for the sewer. You know, so if you want, I mean, it's much more complicated. I think we should just start with that and then see what that looks like. What do you think?
it's your motion, so. Any other council comments on this? Public comment? Yeah, Mr. Salmon.
Steve Samet, 245 East Shadbolt. So I'm not looking for a discount on my bill. I'm subsidizing the system. I am not putting that water in the sewer. So, you know, it's kind of crazy that I'm being charged as much as I am. And I also agree that I'm away a good part of the winter. So it's not fair to look at my winter water usage. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. So there's maybe a higher minimum charge for sewer would be more appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rosemary Ford, 225 North Broadway. In listening, maybe I'm misunderstanding, but my question is, when we're speaking that the township rates are lower, and it was mentioned by a council member that where they had lived before, the rates were lower, does the rate determine based on your population? Seeing as that we have not quite 3,000, or is it where you're looking at the township, which has 35,000 plus residents? I mean, that 35,000 is based on a couple years ago. I have no idea what the population is now. If you're looking at Rochester Hills, again, every municipality is a different number. So I just wonder if that is a consideration on how they configure what your water rate would be. So that's just my curiosity. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comments? Seeing we have a motion and support, and the motion is to direct the village manager to come up with a proposal for separate metering for irrigation systems and the cost of that for a resident. Is that accurate?
Sure.
Just want to make sure we know what we're voting on.
Might want to include if there's additional costs for the village that would have to be included in the
Okay,
charge.
with any additional costs for the village for that. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 11, call to the public, same as at the beginning of the meeting. If anybody wishes to speak, you have 4 minutes. So Mr. Gibb and then Mr. Simmons.
Good evening again, Matthew Gibb, 118 North Broadway, the DDA. Council President, because there wasn't a call to the public on 10D, just a quick comment on that, the setting of that. So both in your special meeting and at various other sessions, the DDA wants to reiterate its strong support of the use of the 75-25. I think Mr. Dandeli's, your analysis is spot on regarding the increases in revenues going forward. To that end, we would offer and invite, again, the opportunity to be very collaborative in that instance. A couple of things that I would just caution on that might help our process going forward. Well, I know certain of you are very good engineers and good educators and other things. None of you are attorneys. Even though I'm an attorney, I wouldn't want to represent legal positioning of the DDA. I know there's been a lot of legal opinions thrown around, both in your prior meeting and tonight. The law is a very interesting thing. I completely agree with Mr. Lamb when he said the county doesn't meter all of the outflow of sewers. That's his engineering coming out. He's spot on with that. But the law really can be interpreted based on how courts and others have really looked at that. The implications of the 75-25 themselves create answers to the questions that were raised in your special meeting regarding the need, if any, to amend anything in a form of a TIF plan or a project plan. The law has been pretty replete on both sides of that question and at the Attorney General's office. I concede Mr. McCleary found some very good substantive opinions that he was citing in your prior meeting. It doesn't matter to the DDA who's right or wrong. What does matter is that we rest this on a collaborative effort of finding a way that we can utilize and maximize this set aside for 75-25 to support the needs of our community, not just us and you, but our community going forward. I fear we get caught up in a legal argument of who's right on the law or what needs to be amended or whatnot. And we saw at the meeting 2 weeks ago, Bob Davis, who represents the DDA from time to time, was able to do some corrective language within some memorandum that he passed out. So I would just encourage the council, the committee that was appointed, don't get wrapped up in the legal minutia of what Attorney General might have said 18 years ago, and focus more on the collaborative effort of there is a way that we can work within the law and the parameters of what was set up. Remember, the 75-25 was reviewed extensively by the village attorneys and the DDA attorneys, and then got adopted unanimously by everybody. So those attorneys weren't wrong when they did that. That operating document and the agreement, I applaud again the village manager. He did a fabulous job, as I think I did and all of you and our board at the DDA, to adopt the contract for 75-25 that had that base year and allows us to accumulate that. So I would just encourage you to stay focused, not on legal opinions that says we have to undo TIFs and amend things and all those things. It could be true. I would argue it's not. I'm pretty good at the law. Mr. McCleary would argue it is necessary. He's pretty good at understanding the law. In the absence of having your own attorney present, which I know is right now not a favored policy, I would encourage the council not to be lawyers. The worst type of a client is those that think they're the lawyer. So don't be lawyers. And let's focus more on the 75-25. And I encourage you. And I applaud Mr. Sanchez on figuring out snow removal. It is a conundrum. A good job on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Salmon.
Steve Samet, 245 East Shadbelton. I just wanted to mention that a deduct meter should be considered as part of this issue. And that is a second meter that measures how much water goes out to my sprinkler system. The way my plumbing is set up in my house, it's going to be difficult to put a second meter in and run a line all the way to my sprinkler system. So a deduct meter would work as an option. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for call to the public? Seeing none, I'll close. Call to the public. Council comments. Mr. Pepchek.
Yeah, I think sort of the recurring theme we're hearing a lot of is water and sewer bills, right? I think that's one of those things, big concern. I've heard it from my neighbors, people on our streets, from a lot of the community here the last couple of meetings. And I think it's something we all really want to dig into, right? I think maybe raising rates is an easy answer, but I think finding smarter funding is probably the right answer. So I hope to get into more of that in some of our future meetings. Other than that, I think we've got a big event coming Friday evening for all the little ghosts and goblins. Hopefully everyone has a good time, hopefully some good weather, and stay safe out there.
Thank you. Mr. Dandelides.
Frankly, I'm really encouraged that we're starting, you know, we've got this CIP now, and I think we've identified our needs. I think it's taken some time, but I think that we're now looking at different ways to fund those and the actual impact that some of those are having on our residents, and I feel pretty good about working together. And I think, you know, with the DDA collaboratively, I absolutely think that's our best approach, is to figure out how we all win. It's got to be a win-win. And I'm feeling very optimistic about making some of that happen. So, thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Ford?
Sitting on the Paint Creek Trail Commission, I try to give updates. They're working on Bridge 31-7, which is down towards Rochester, if we get down that way. The replacement is going to be delayed, rather than February, it's going to be May. And then 4 to 6 weeks during December and January, the trail in that section will be closed so they can bring in bridge supplies. Not that we're all biking down there in December, January, but we need to still make people aware of it. Every trail section has been adopted by sponsors to pick up stuff. And then the DIA Inside Out program with the artwork is going to be, they've applied to put artwork throughout the trail from here to Rochester. Witches Night, I was not a witch, but I was walking down there, and it was packed down there, so it was another DDA successful event. And then I think I heard the leaf pickup going around today, so another plus for living in the village. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Camperoni?
Well, I don't have much today. Remember, Tuesday, vote. We've got a special, just one, we're voting on one thing here, right? Schools, more money, bigger taxes, more mills, all that stuff. Just vote wisely. Have a good weekend.
Mr. Lamb?
I'm going to put my lawyer hat on just to torture Matt. So I've been working on the water and sewer funding for 5 years. We've done everything we possibly could to try and get money for the water and sewer, and I've been beaten down. So a couple things have been decided, though, over this last summer. Administration and I agree that the DDA can't be gotten rid of because they've got a $5 million bond, and we have to use the TIF revenues to pay for the bonds. So we're in agreement the DDA is here to stay for 20 years. Yay. Okay. The second thing was Mr. McCleary also agreed with me in a meeting before this meeting that I can read the attorney's opinions of the DDA attorney and our attorney and interpret them correctly. And we agreed that the attorneys said that if the TIF is to be amended, the DDA has to suggest the TIF amendment. If the village wants to change the boundary of the DDA, it is up to the village council to decide. So the one remaining question I haven't got a for sure answer from is, can the DDA spend our tax dollars on stuff that's not written in their TIF plan? The DDA attorney, in his opinion, says that the DDA must spend all of their money in conformance with the TIF plan. Okay, but I'm not an attorney. The DDA attorney is their own attorney. I read the TIF plan today. The TIF plan doesn't say anything about sewer and water. There's not one word in the TIF plan about sewer and water. So once again, I just make the argument that the 75-25 generates a huge amount of infrastructure money for use in the DDA district, but the TIF plan doesn't allow it to be used for sewer and water. So we almost got to the point where once we agree on that fact, I'm hoping council will read the documents again, we can decide whether we should suggest to the DDA to modify the TIF plan to include some water and sewer repairs, or to make some other modification. So so in my opinion, my plan as always will be, if we need to take money from the TIF, from the district size, so we can get some money for you for your sewer and water, let's do it. We can compromise. The DDA has to stay. We can compromise. Or if we can modify the TIF plan to achieve some similar effect. Okay, I gave everybody numbers tonight. There's going to be huge growth in both the DDA's income and in the village's income over the next 20 years. I'm just thinking that we should put a little bit money towards the people's water and sewer bills. So I just want to clarify that legal drama. Okay, That's what it really is. And so we really have made some agreements and some understanding, and as soon as, all of us are together on the facts, and like I said, to me, the problem is the sewer and water bills. That's it. It's a huge, the roads, Mr. McCleary has explained how the roads work. We're all going to pay out of our pockets for getting our roads fixed, but we're going to get some money from the state, and we're going to get a little money from the general fund, depending where you live. So, that's taken care of. So now we just have to work on the sewer and water. So to me, that's the problem. Okay? I've been living in this ugly hall. We finally got the steeple closed up, so now the roof doesn't leak. Hooray for that, too. Boy, that was a great job. And the last one was the cityhood committee decided at their last meeting that it was not in the village people's economic or social best interest to become a city. So I did write a report. I think maybe they'll be included at the next, so the next council meeting, there's a small written report on both issues. But so the city committee's done. We're done. The steeple, it's done. The steeple is now over at the DPW yard, getting ready to be preserved in some fashion, so that if sometime in the future we want to put it back up, maybe we could make a model of the old one out of some modern, non-rotting materials that weigh much less and stick it back up on the roof. But that would be that'd be a long-term solution. So good luck with your water. I have a lake pump, so I feel your pain. I hear you. So thanks.
You. I'm encouraged to hear that the DIA Inside Out is going to be on the Paint Creek Trail. We've had it in town, and that it stays close to our community as well. I love that project, and what the DIA does there. Agree, Mr. Papachek, yes, Halloween is coming this week, so watch out for all those little kids, 6 to 8 p.m. It is on our village website if people are wondering. Those are the trick-or-treating hours as normal. So have fun out there, be safe. And that's all I have for the evening. So village manager comments, Mr. McCleary.
Thank you, Your Honor. First of all, you've received the village manager's report for tonight. I did mention the steeple being removed. I think Councilmember Lamb is trying to make me cry tonight because he knows how near and dear that steeple was to my heart. But the steeple has been removed, the roof has been repaired. Director Sanchez and I will be working on the next steps in getting the ceiling inside here repaired. I noted for council that we will be advertising on the Mitten bid system for bids for water system lead service line replacements for the next 3 years, and the process for that solicitation. As council is aware, under Michigan's lead and copper rules, water system lead service lines must be completely replaced at the expense of the water utility no later than the year 2041, with 5% of the total number being replaced annually. Federal regulations adopted in 2024 requires lead service lines to be replaced within 10 years. We have confirmed with the State Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, that the state is still following the state's policy of the, 25 years. So they have not changed the state's deadline, so we are following that at this time. The village has budgeted $30,000 annually in the water and sewer fund for the line replacements, and we have approximately 60 lead service lines that need to be replaced. We actually anticipate we'll probably meet the federal requirements and have them all replaced within 10 years. We are working on a comprehensive employee policy manual. I'm working with our labor attorney on that. As soon as we have a final draft completed, that will be coming to council for your review and approval. There have been some changes to the Community Development Block Grant Program. Instead of receiving an entitlement allocation every year, Now, all of the participating communities in the county program will have to apply for competitive grants. So we will not receive our automatic $9,000 every year. We may receive $30,000 in 1 year and then go 5 years with receiving nothing. So we are trying to identify appropriate projects to submit for consideration by the county. And to end on a happy note, I did receive word on Friday from the state of Michigan that the village has been awarded a $250,000 grant to assist in the funding of our 2026 local street improvement projects. We anticipate completing $547,000 in local street improvements this upcoming year. So this grant will fund just under 50% of those projects. So that is great news to us. And I provided you with some important upcoming dates. That's all I have tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you. We have no closed session items, so with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Support.
Okay, I'll make the motion. And we have support. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting's adjourned.